A developer at a small AI startup wanted to cheat at Roblox. 3 months later, millions of production deployments around the world sat behind a threat actor's access window.
Not through a 0-day, not through nation-state tradecraft, through an OAuth token that was sitting on a compromised machine, already linked to infrastructure the startup never knew they were responsible for protecting.
This is the full kill chain. 5 hops, 2 months, and a checkbox labeled Allow All.
This is context window signal. One AI security incident, fully unpacked, from patient 0 to postmortem. Sourced from primary disclosures, threat intelligence reports, and security research, not press releases.
Today, how Llama Stealer malware on one developer's laptop cascaded through a small AI startup, through a Google OAuth token into the internal environment of Vercel AI, the platform behind Next.js, serving an enormous fraction of the modern web.
If you've deployed anything to Vercel, this reached infrastructure you depend on. If your team uses AI productivity tools connected to Google Workspace, pay very close attention to Act 2.
Context.ai is a San Francisco startup that builds AI analytics tooling, evaluations, observability, visibility into how AI models perform in production. A small company, a legitimate company, the kind of vendor whose name shows up in a dev team's Notion doc as approved integration.
In February 2026, an employee there sat down at their work machine and searched for Roblox auto farm scripts, game exploit executors, the kind of things shared in Discord servers, posted on GitHub repos with a handful of stars.
What they downloaded was Llama Stealer, a malware as a service sold on underground forums since 2022. You subscribe to Llama the same way you subscribe to Slack. The operators provide infrastructure, logs, customer support. Buyers just distribute the payload.
Llama doesn't encrypt your files. It doesn't make demands. It runs quietly, finishes its job in minutes, and ships. What it takes: browser history, saved passwords, session cookies, autofill fields, API keys, OAuth credentials. Anything the machine stores for convenience.
Security firm Hudson Rock analyzed the infected machine's logs later. What was harvested: Google Workspace credentials, keys and logins for Supabase, Datadog, and AuthKit, and one account that turned out to be critical: support at Context.ai, a core member of the company's Vercel team.
Here's what made this infection particularly significant. Hudson Rock searched their cybercrime database. The company had exactly one InfoStealer infection on record. This one. If you want patient 0 in this story, this is it.
Alongside their enterprise product, Context.ai had built something separate, a consumer app called AI Office Suite, launched in June 2025. It automated workflows across Gmail, Google Drive, and other Google Workspace services. Free, self-serve, experimental, connected via OAuth.
OAuth is how apps connect to your accounts without holding your password. You've seen it. Sign in with Google. The consent screen lists the scopes, your calendar, your documents, your email. Click through and the app gets a token, a long-lived credential that doesn't need your password and doesn't trigger multi-factor authentication.
A Vercel employee had signed up for this tool using their enterprise Google account, and they clicked Allow All. That granted broad permissions, including full Google Drive read access. Nobody in Vercel's IT had a record of it. This is what security teams call shadow AI, like a tool with broad access that nobody officially approved.
In March 2026, using credentials from the Llama Stealer harvest, the attacker accessed Context.ai's AWS environment. Inside, the OAuth token store for the app's consumer users. One of those tokens belonged to the Vercel employee's enterprise Google account.
Context.ai later confirmed Vercel was not a Context.ai enterprise customer. This access came entirely through a free consumer product, and the company flagged that the attack potentially affected hundreds of consumer users across many organizations, not just Vercel. The AI Office Suite has since been deprecated entirely.
With the OAuth token in hand, the attacker took over the Vercel employee's Google Workspace account. No password, no MFA prompt. OAuth tokens represent a session that's already been authenticated. The platform has no reliable way to distinguish the legitimate user from the attacker holding their token.
From Google Workspace, the attacker moved through Google's single sign-on into Vercel's internal tooling, issue trackers, admin interfaces, internal environments, and then came the enumeration of environment variables. That enumeration is where the actual damage happened.
Vercel encrypts all customer environment variables at rest. But the system has a distinction. Variables explicitly marked as sensitive are fully protected. Variables left as non-sensitive, the default for most developers, are readable once you have internal access. The attacker had internal access.
CEO Guillermo Rauch later wrote that the attacker moved with surprising velocity and showed deep knowledge of Vercel's internal API surface. He said he strongly suspects the operation was significantly accelerated by AI. That would make this one of the first public CEO-level attributions of AI-assisted adversary tradecraft.
The startup, meanwhile, didn't know the full scope. They had detected and stopped unauthorized access to their AWS environment in March. But the OAuth token exfiltration wasn't identified until Vercel's own investigation surfaced it weeks later. That gap matters.
Vercel published a security bulletin on April 19th. The same day, a threat actor using the Shiny Hunter's name posted on BreachForums with a listing, stolen Vercel data for sale at $2 million.
The listing described 580 employee records, names, email addresses, account status, activity timestamps, NPM tokens, GitHub tokens, partial source code, screenshots of internal dashboards. The threat actor also claimed they discussed a ransom demand with Vercel. Vercel said they'd received no such communication.
The Shiny Hunter's attribution was disputed almost immediately. The original group told Bleeping Computer they had nothing to do with it. Google's threat intelligence group weighed in. The actor was likely an imposter, attempting to use an established name to inflate their notoriety. The breach was real. The branding was performance.
One clear piece of good news. Vercel audited its open source packages in coordination with GitHub, Microsoft, NPM, and Socket. Next.js, TurboPack. The AI SDK, all clean. No tampering found. The attacker reached internal credentials, but didn't reach the code that ships on 100 million weekly NPM downloads.
Jaime Blasco, CTO at Nudge Security, wrote a post that circulated widely after this disclosure. Quote, SalesLoft Drift, Gainsight, now Context.ai and Vercel. Different vendors, same story. Attackers compromise a small vendor, steal the OAuth tokens they hold on behalf of customers, and walk into hundreds of downstream enterprises.
This tradecraft has a name, OAuth Supply Chain. It's been documented across multiple campaigns in 2025 and 2026. You find a small, trusted vendor with broad OAuth integrations and a less mature security program. Compromise them. Their tokens become skeleton keys into every organization that trusted their integration.
What makes this incident distinct is the shadow AI angle. The entry point wasn't a corporate system, it was an employee's free consumer account at a company that had no enterprise relationship with Vercel. It had no visibility, no ability to revoke it, and no way to know it existed.
The environment variable design lesson, sensitive versus non-sensitive, is not just a checkbox. In a deployment platform where hundreds of teams store credentials, that distinction is a security boundary. Defaulting to non-sensitive amplified blast radius, Vercel has since moved towards sensitive by default. That is the right direction.
3 things to do this week. Audit OAuth grants in your Google Workspace admin console. Specifically search for that Context.ai client ID. Mark Vercel environment variables containing secrets as sensitive, and build a process to review AI tool access before installation, not after breach.
That's context window signal, 1 Llama Stealer download, 1 OAuth token, 1 checkbox that said allow all. And the deployment platform behind a significant slice of the modern web sat inside an attacker's access window for weeks.
I'm Max. If this was useful, share it with whoever approved your last third-party AI integration. Stay safe, everyone.